Bearing downwind.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Space is expensive. So expensive, some say, that no single nation can afford it. But can separate countries find common goals in space? We'll try and find out, this time on Inside Space.
It's called the People's House, the White House here in Washington, D.C. I guess a nice place to live, but tough to get neighborhood kids to cut the lawn. Hi, I'm Geoff Fox, and this time on Inside Space, we'll take a look at how some decisions are made inside that building. Take the president. The president is in office for 4 or 8 years, sometimes less. Yet the president has to make lots of decisions with long-lasting impact about projects that can run decades, especially when it has to do with space. That's why there are people around like David Brand. David's the program director of the National Space Society, and it's his job to put the long-term spin on space projects.
Thanks, Jeff. Let's say you're a citizen with a good idea about space. Where do you go to get your idea off the ground? You come here to Washington, D.C., the power center of the last remaining superpower on Earth. Now, in order to get our idea into the hands of the people who can really make it fly, we need to visit a lot of places around town. So you're going to need a sturdy pair of shoes. One of the first stops we'll make is here at the National Space Society.
The National Space Society is a member-supported group which wants to see human civilization established in space.
Space activists, led by the San Diego L5 chapter of NSS, have long had some good ideas about commercialization in space. So they put them down on paper. They drafted legislation. And here's what they came up with. The Lunar Resources Data Purchase Act, affectionately known as the Back to the Moon Bill. The bill authorizes the U.S. government, NASA, to purchase lunar science data from commercial and nonprofit suppliers. Basically what this means is, whether or not the moon is a suitable area for future human exploration, it would be foolhardy to not explore it robotically for resources such as water ice, that if available, would make human exploration of the solar system more economical and safe. The chapter brought their draft here to NSS headquarters. And so we begin the process of shepherding the bill through the halls of Congress, what we call going up to the hill. We'll start out on the House side, where we know we have friends on the Science Committee who want to go back to the moon.
This committee establishes all congressional policy for science, space, and technology issues. Even the NASA administrator himself is occasionally called upon to testify and to answer questions like, do we really need a space station?
If we cancel a space station, we're talking about America walking off the field of human spaceflight.
On the Senate side, we don't have the same kind of support for space, at least not for anything less than a space station.
The senators, even former astronauts like John Glenn, are usually thinking about big expenditures on short timescales, a small outlay to ensure the survival of humanity just isn't politically popular. Let's try over at NASA.
NASA also thinks big. However, it's their job to follow the intent of Congress. Some space activists do not feel that NASA has fully embraced commercial space activities. We're here at the offices of the American Institute of Aeronautics and Astronautics at the Aerospace Center. The AIAA is the big technical society of professional engineers. It's a shame AIAA rarely takes a position on legislation such as our Back to the Moon bill. They do have a nice building, though. Welcome to Aerospace Contractor Alley, across the Potomac River in Crystal City, Virginia. This is where all the aerospace lobbyists that you've heard about hang out. Now, you would think these guys would be supportive of our legislation. After all, they are the commercial space business. But they always seem to have their own pork to cook.
Now, as to the fate of our return to the moon bill, well, I'm afraid it died when the NASA authorization bill was killed by the House. That's the way things work around here. As a famous physicist once said, Washington is like a black hole. A lot of good ideas get sucked into it, but very few ever come out.
Now that we've been around the block with our legislation, we can see that doing business in the Capitol can be very complex. Getting private enterprise to do business in space directly will certainly advance the day when humans will live and work in space. That's what space advocacy organizations like the National Space Society are all about. Jeff?
Thanks, David. But I'd think about getting those shoes resold if I were you.
Who is it to decide that anything outside of the Earth can be claimed in the name of any one country? It sounds kind of silly, but let's say you get to the point where you buy an acre of the moon, and someday if you want to colonize it and have a summer house there or something, you know, that's your land.
The first countries that get up there are going to have an enormous foothold, and they're going to be the ones that end up dominating whatever goes on up there.
You've got this big opportunity where there could be things up there that you have to grab. If the United States isn't up there first, another country could, you know, jump the gun on us.
But maybe it can be the situation where, you know, there can be an international science community that can go and actually, for once, maybe in the history of our planet, work together for some kind of scientific goal which could benefit the whole world.
The roots of the space industry can be traced back to the V-2 rockets that fell on London during World War II. In the 50s and 60s, we were engaged in a space race with the USSR. The Apollo-Soyuz program in the 70s was a symbol of détente. In the 80s, during the Reagan era, the Soviet Union and US began competing commercially in space. But now, in the 90s, collaboration seems to be the key.
We had, at NASA, had a long history of cooperation with the countries of Europe, with Canada, Japan, countries of Latin America. But the collapse of the Soviet Union and the emergence of democracy, or emerging democracies, let's say, in that part of the world, has opened up a whole new set of possibilities.
Bob Clark, Associate Administrator of Policy Coordination and International Affairs at NASA, has been closely involved with the U.S.-Russian collaboration on the International Space Station.
We have signed a contract with the Russians for $400 million over a 4-year period. We will probably do some more work with the Russians, maybe totaling an additional $400 million. For the value that the American public is getting at, I think this is one of the best deals that we have got going.
Now, you talk about the internationalization of space. Bob Clark often finds himself negotiating opposite Jeff Mamber.
We do things very well in this country that the Russians can only marvel at.
An American who used to work for the U.S. Department of Commerce, but now Jeff represents NPO Energia Limited.
Some of our miniaturization, some of our electronics, some of our software, some of our computer systems are just light years ahead of the Russians. And so the Russians have the world's only space station. But if you take that platform and you combine it with some of the U.S. hardware and some of our software capabilities and some of our research capabilities, that will be extraordinary.
In February, we're going to actually send a shuttle up, and we're going to rendezvous around the Mir station. And in March, we're going to send an American astronaut up on a Russian space vehicle launched from Baikonur in Kazakhstan to begin a 3-month stay. 3 months after that, we're going to send a shuttle up, and we're going to actually dock the shuttle with the Mir station. This is something NASA's never done before.
It's very exciting. The first hardware has come over. The docking unit has come over to Rockwell. This is the hardware that will be used to dock the shuttle with the Mir. When this came in on time, on budget, NASA wanted more tests. And the Russians are like, why are you testing it so much? Why so much paperwork?
If we had to develop that, it would have taken years and cost us a vast amount more. It just makes sense to go ahead and buy one.
Our transportation in space is dependent on one vehicle, the space shuttle. Now that we brought the Russians in, we have access to their Proton, their Progress, their Soyuz, to launch people, to launch cargo. If the shuttle has a problem and is stranded for 5 months, what are we going to do with our $70 billion space station?
Do you want a part of something, or do you want all of nothing? Because if we didn't cooperate, if we didn't come together, I don't think that a project like the space station would, quite frankly, could be built.
It saves us money. And so when you go out to, out into the streets and you say to people, we're building a space station with the Russians, they say, well, that makes sense. And then you say, well, it's saving us billions of dollars. And they go, well, let's do it.
Up next, a citizen of the space age.
Inside Space is brought to you by Jeep, makers of Grand Cherokee, Cherokee, and Wrangler.
Today at the Eagle test drive sale, Sam Higgins is trading in his Celica for an Eagle Vision.
That's right, my boss loves his. 3.3-liter engine, 161 horses. Besides, I am up for a big promotion.
A little V6 chit-chat goes a long way with the boss.
It reminds me of a Lexus, but Vision's a lot less.
See, that's going to look good on a resume.
And with the money I saved, I'm going to get the power sunroof.
Smart thinking like that, it's going to get you out of the mailroom.
Lease Vision ESI now for just $229 a month.
Julia Murray is doing something her allergies and the pollen never let her do before. She's watching one of the finest 9-year-olds ever to play the game. Thanks to Benadryl, the histamine blocker. It actually blocks the histamine that triggers allergic reactions. Take Benadryl and take back your life. And try Benadryl Dye-Free, the allergy medication with no artificial colors or dyes.
You're watching Inside Space on the Sci-Fi Channel.
If you're looking for a cereal with a nutty difference, try Clusters. Clusters starts with crispy flakes, then adds crunchy nut clusters. With just the right touch of honey for a light, crispy, nutty taste. So if you want a cereal with a sweet, nutty difference, get your hands on some Clusters, if you can.
Back in Washington, D.C., this is the Jefferson Memorial. You know what's so substantial, so stately looking? You would think that it had been here basically forever. But only since 1943, that's when Franklin Roosevelt dedicated the building. And if you don't know who Thomas Jefferson is, if you're from another planet and you're just watching Inside Space to try and get news from home tonight, he would be 7th signature down from John Hancock here on the Declaration of Independence, one of the framers of our Constitution, one of the people who helped provide the freedoms that we all have. Now, we're going to meet a guy now who grew up without those freedoms. In fact, he had ideas about what he wanted to do with space and technology, but they were ideas that he couldn't put into practice. He can now, and his story is fascinating.
I would say I was grown in an average family. I was born outside the Moscow, but since I was 6, I was growing in Moscow. At that time, at school, I didn't think I will be able to go any other country because society was closed. I didn't think about big things like space exploration.
As a young man growing up in the communist Soviet Union, Valery Aksamentov may not have thought much about space, but the race to space between his country and the United States was in full swing.
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
And it was a race that the United States would win.
Then the United States landed on the moon. I was really young. I was only 10 years old. But I remember that excitement in Russia too. Then on the news program they showed the achievements, the first man on the moon. I remember my father and my mom were sitting nearby TV. They were very excited discussing that. I couldn't understand what's going on, and then they look. There is another planet which you see each night. And now somebody's staying there on that planet, an American astronaut now on the moon. At that time, I didn't know that it was a competition between Russia and the United States to go there. It was achievement of the humankind to send a human on the other planet.
Achievements like this by both the United States and Soviet Union energized a new generation of young people on both sides of the Iron Curtain to reach for the stars. And one of them was Valery Aksamentov. Aksamentov spent over 10 years working on the space program in Russia, but now he's in the United States, helping to usher in a new era of international cooperation in space.
Basically, this is the idea to use the Russian technology to go to the moon and American technology experience to explore the moon. One of them for the modules 1, 2, and another.
As Vice President of International Space Enterprises, Aksamentov hopes to change the way we explore space in the future.
The idea was to develop privately and commercially financed missions to the moon and to find the cheapest way to get there. And we began to work towards that and find out that the cheapest way to get us there is to use existing hardware and technology which exists in Russia. I think that what we have now, it's the ideal situation for us to get the best result. Stability for both countries in space program depends on the cooperation and collaboration.
And now, this Russian-born scientist who was inspired by a previous generation's accomplishments hopes he can do the same for the generation that follows him.
Let the kids see what's going in space. Let the kids understand how the space can be beneficial for us. Make them excited, bring them back to the classrooms. I think it will get them better excitement and understanding why do we need space, why do we need space exploration.
Go back and analyze why we originally went to the moon. The Russians motivated us. And now that Russia is no longer seemingly our mortal enemy, the Russians may be motivating us to go back to the moon, but this time with them. At least that's the idea of a company called International Space Enterprises.
America's moon conquests of 25 years ago have been well documented, but the United States wasn't the only country to send spacecraft to our satellite. In fact, the Soviet Union made it there first when in September of 1959, the Luna 2 probe became the first man-made object to crash on the moon's surface. In all, the Soviets sent 14 unmanned spacecraft to the moon. And while what they accomplished may not compare to what the United States was able to do, it did give them the experience to know how to get to the moon and how to explore it. Now, the San Diego-based company International Space Enterprises is planning on using Russian technology based on spacecraft like these to return to the moon in a few short years. Their plan calls for a series of landing missions in which various experiments will be performed that will take advantage of the countless new technologies that have been developed since the Apollo days. This will enable scientists to better study things like the moon's gravitational field, seismic activity, and soil composition. In addition, lunar rovers will be dispatched to roam the moon's surface. These rovers also have their roots in the Russian space program and are based on the Soviet Lunokhod rovers, which explored the moon in the early 70s. ISE also plans to deploy lunar-based telescopes on the dark side of the moon in order to perform deep space astronomy away from Earth light and radio interference. And all of it privately financed and based on the unlikely combination of American ingenuity and Russian technology.
It may be difficult to believe, but International Space Enterprises wants to be up there on the moon by 1997. Now, hold on. It's not that outlandish. Some of our biggest transportation breakthroughs were done by private enterprise, and they could be done by private enterprise again. Anyway, what seems difficult today is not always difficult tomorrow. And I'm going to give you a good example right here at the Washington Monument. When they built that, they wanted something that was rare, something that was difficult to come by, something that was in very short supply to be on the top, a pyramid, to really make this a special place. And what did they choose? Not the Coke can, but what it's made of, aluminum. This was a very rare metal at one time. We'll be back with more Inside Space in just a minute. Don't go away.
The International Association of Wildland Fire just approved a nasal decongestant for firefighters on duty. It's Sudafed, approved because of the way Sudafed clears up sinus and allergy congestion. Approved because it relieves painful sinus pressure. And most importantly, approved because Sudafed gives you all this relief with no drowsy side effects. Strong medicine, no drowsiness. Sudafed clears you up without slowing you down.
Today we're at the Eagle test drive sale along with Vicki Edmondson.
I'm just checking out this Talon deal. The commute is really getting to me in my Acura.
I could see you in an Eagle Talon.
Yeah, I could too. 140 horses, double wishbone suspension.
Well, aren't we speedy?
Woo! This Talon deal is unbelievable.
So's the traffic out there.
The Eagle Test Drive sale going on now. Eagle Talon starts at $14,995.
The International Association of Wildland Fire just approved a nasal decongestant for firefighters on duty. It's Sudafed, approved because of the way Sudafed clears up sinus and allergy congestion. Approved because it relieves painful sinus pressure. And most importantly, approved because Sudafed gives you all this relief with no drowsy side effects. Strong medicine, no drowsiness. Sudafed clears you up without slowing you down.
There you are, careening through the Manhattan skyline in an attempt to repel the invasion of the savage Keshron, when suddenly, little Susie comes in wanting to visit the Bear Country Fair. So, you pop in Berenstain Bears, and voila, you and Susie are learning to be responsible, so you can take a shot at little Freddy. When Billy arrives, needing to research the rise and fall of the Roman Empire. So in goes Compton's Encyclopedia, and you all take a time machine back to the reign of Marcus Aurelius. It's education, games, music, and movies. It's CDI, interactive entertainment for your living room in one handy unit. Plug it in. Play it now. It even plays movies like Forrest Gump. CD for your TV.
Call now to find out how you can get Compton's Interactive Encyclopedia, Space Ace, and the furiously fun new title, Chaos Control. All three worth $180. Free when you buy CDI during this limited time offer. Call now for information.
Where are you from?
I'm from Arizona.
Well, no wonder. Isn't that where Puget Sound is?
No,
You think it's a good idea for us to partner with Russia?
Well, now I think it's a good idea, but I don't think it was. When we went the first time, I don't think it was a good idea.
The Americans and the Russians with French country are the only people to go out of space.
But now, yeah, I think it's a good idea now.
It has to be a universal joint venture or something like that, rather than being a single country try to dominate the space.
It would help so we can become better friends, I guess.
If that, what they do in space will help medicine in the future to help people below, I would say so, yes.
I don't know. Yeah, I think so. I think it'd be a good idea.
Good idea, bad idea?
I think it's a very good idea. I think it promotes peace and harmony in the world.
Not back then.
Even as the Cold War dipped far below the freezing point in 1975, the United States and the Soviet Union agreed that continued space exploration would benefit all mankind, and that working together would bring greater rewards than either nation could attain alone. It was an amazing sight. U.S. Apollo 18 and Soviet Soyuz 19 linked in orbit on the first joint flight between the superpowers. Commanders Thomas Stafford and Alexei Leonov shook hands in the connecting airlock, while President Gerald Ford congratulated the crews before a global TV audience.
It's taken us many years to open this door to useful cooperation in space between our two countries. Space missions made possible by this first joint effort will be more or less commonplace.
19 years after that historic mission, the Iron Curtain is drawn wide open, and CCCP
stands only for countries in cooperation for cosmic purposes. The anniversary of Apollo-Soyuz was marked this year by an agreement of space cooperation signed by Russian Prime Minister Viktor Chernomyrdin and U.S. Vice President Al Gore. 1994 also marked the first time a Russian cosmonaut flew on the shuttle as Sergei Krikalev joined the STS-60 crew. The first U.S.-Russian planetary mission will go to Mars in 1996. As the Russian-built Mars rover explores the surface, it will be aided by a McDonnell Douglas robotic manipulator arm. The manipulator will give scientists a front-row seat to the red planet.
Inside Space is brought to you by Benadryl Allergy Medication, the histamine blocker for strong, effective allergy relief of runny nose, itchy eyes, and sneezing.
Julia Murray is doing something her allergies and the pollen never let her do before. She's watching one of the finest 9-year-olds ever to play the game. Thanks to Benadryl, the histamine blocker. It actually blocks the histamine that triggers allergic reactions. Take Benadryl and take back your life. And try Benadryl dye-free, the allergy medication with no artificial colors or dyes.
But her admirers had better beware, for now she was the leech woman.
It's a beautiful day! Why don't you kids do something different for a change? Get outside! Okay, Mom.
Introducing the great taste of new Taco Supreme flavored Doritos tortilla chips.
That was a good idea. That was a real good idea.
You're watching Inside Space on the Sci-Fi Channel.
Car and Driver magazine says that the 1995 Eagle Talon TSI all-wheel drive offers the most performance and technology for the dollar. So we wondered, what does Renegade Biker think? We're here with the editor, Pork Chop, here at the Chrysler Test Track to give it a spin. So your thoughts?
The scrub ratio is very impressive. All in all, the styling and finesse transcends the normal expectations of a sports car enthusiast.
Quite an endorsement. Pork Chop.
Any air freshener can freshen a small room, but what about a large room?
Plug it in, plug it in.
New Glade plug-ins for large rooms warms 2 cartridges for large room freshness.
Plug it in, plug it in.
Plug into large room freshness from Glade.
During the JCPenney semi-annual lingerie sale, you can save 25 to 30% on a collection of styles and colors. Now isn't it time you redecorated?
One of the nice things about living here in the United States is that if you have a viewpoint that you want to express, you can let your congressperson or even the president know. You can pick up a pen or pick up a keyboard and write them. Well, nothing's changed when you're with us here on Inside Space. You can get in touch with us, too. Here's our address. It's Inside Space, USA Network Sci-Fi Channel, 1230 Avenue of the Americas, New York, New York, 10020. Or if you're on the net, we're in cyberspace, too. Contact us at maxsfc@aol.com. Washington is a beautiful city, but we probably couldn't afford to build it from scratch again. Unless, maybe we got a bunch of nations to cooperate. A good idea in space as well. I'm Geoff Fox for Inside Space.
This is Richard Hart. This week on CNET Central, see how you can catch your favorite TV shows on your computer and travel across Hawaii without leaving your desktop. All on CNET Central, coming up next on the Sci-Fi Channel.
Coming up on the Sci-Fi Channel.
Acquiring downlink. 4, 3, 2, 1.
In the span of 70 years, we've gone from canvas-winged airplanes to moon rockets. Where will we be in another 70? What can happen in a lifetime? This time on Inside Space. This room is very, very impressive. This is the National Air and Space Museum in Washington, D.C. And up there, that's a replica of the Wright brothers' first plane that flew at Kitty Hawk. Behind me, the Viking lander, at least a replica of it, because the real one is still on the surface of Mars. Though this is the real Apollo command module that heated up to about 5,000 degrees as it plunged back through the Earth's atmosphere. Hi, I'm Geoff Fox, and tonight on Inside Space, we'll take a look at how we've progressed in space. You know, man has been on the planet for millions of years, and yet our trips to space have only lasted through the last blink of an eye. Rockets have been around for about 2,000 years, but it's only in the last 60 that they've been transformed into something that can carry payloads and people into space. Much of the credit for that belongs to developments which happened in Germany under the direction of Wernher von Braun. The scary question is, was it all a fluke? Are we going back to business as usual now? Or have we passed some critical threshold of technology beyond which things happen really fast? With that in mind, Inside Space sought out two of von Braun's associates, two people who were there when man took his first leaps into space.
The Saturn V rocket, one of the greatest accomplishments of the 20th century. It launched man to the moon. And two men who contributed greatly to its development are Ernst Stuhlinger and Konrad Dannenberg. Ernst Stuhlinger and Konrad Dannenberg grew up in post-World War I Germany, dreaming of the future, of rockets and the fantastic places they might someday go to. Another young German shared those same dreams. His name was Wernher von Braun. 1939. At the outset of World War II, von Braun is recognized as one of the world's leading authorities on rocketry.
Peenemünde, where the first precision rocket was developed and built, the A4, which was also called V2. That rocket establishment was built up by the military, by the German army, in the attempt to build rockets or weapons for defense.
And von Braun even objected heavily to the deployment of the V2. But of course a political decision was made. Hitler saw apparently already that the war was lost, and so he just ordered to go ahead and build it and mass produce it, although the development had really not been completed.
We regret it as much as anybody else can regret that our rocket was ever used for military purposes, but what we did have in mind was always the rocket for space, to explore the universe, to explore our celestial neighborhood, and to advance science and our knowledge of our world.
1945, Germany surrenders, signaling the end of World War II. Now they get the opportunity to do what they had always dreamed. What were your feelings when you came to the United States?
It was a great feeling. We would be able to continue our rocket work, not only for military rockets, as we did in Peenemünde, but for those rockets which we had on our minds all the time, namely rockets that could go out into space and eventually to the moon.
The von Braun team spends the years from 1945 to 1950 at Fort Bliss, Texas, helping the Americans assemble and fly nearly 100 V-2 rockets at the nearby White Sands Missile Range.
Von Braun, from the very beginning, thought that once the rockets could be built bigger and larger and more reliable, we would be able to eventually travel with them into space.
1950, the American rocket program is moved to its new home in Huntsville, Alabama. It is from here that von Braun and his men perform the work that will someday change the world.
I believe that this nation should commit itself to achieving the goal, before this decade is out, of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to the Earth.
The challenge extended by President John Kennedy is accepted by Wernher von Braun.
I personally think if von Braun would not have been the leader really of the space program, we would not have been on the moon. Even today, we would not have been on the moon. And
today, Ernst Stuhlinger and Conrad Dannenberg still live in Huntsville, Alabama, a place where they, under the guidance of Wernher von Braun, helped to make history. The city of Huntsville still remembers him, and so do they.
Von Braun's spirit was most felt, of course, here in Huntsville, in his immediate team, but it spilled over to a large extent into, I would say, into Washington. He was a very charismatic leader and a powerful leader. It was a privilege to work for him.
At the U.S. Space and Rocket Center in Huntsville, Alabama, I'm Kim Garris for Inside Space.
And Ernst Stuhlinger is author of a brand new book called Wernher von Braun, Crusader for Space. You know, it's about accomplishments, but even more so, it's about people, what people can do together. I don't think there are too many people who know more about that than Kathy Lewis, who is a curator here at the museum and a space historian. Let's talk a little bit about the Soviet, or at that time the Soviet, and the American space programs and how they got together. And to me, this seems so much like the marriage made in hell, because here are two superpowers who, for all intents and purposes, couldn't stand each other, right?
Yes, well, I think on the surface it seems that way, but if you look into it more deeply, it's not that surprising. And in fact, even though the space program grew out of military and political competition between the two countries, there were great opportunities and great rewards for cooperation. Let me show you an example.
Okay.
This is the Apollo-Soyuz test project. The Apollo-Soyuz test project took place in 1975, and it was born out of Nixon's policy of détente with the Soviet Union.
Now, they're such different spacecraft. I mean, there must have been all sorts of problems to overcome to get them to be compatible, because they were not designed to be compatible.
No, in fact, they were designed to be completely incompatible. In fact, the atmospheres, and that was the basic problem. The Soviets used a full atmosphere of oxygen and nitrogen like we breathe on Earth. The Apollo spacecraft, on the other hand, was only a partial pressure atmosphere of pure oxygen.
So they could never leave it open from one to the other?
They could never have an open hatch between the two spacecraft. So they had to have this central portion, the docking adapter, which has hatches on either end.
So if you take it and you weigh it, it's an incredible accomplishment, but was this more a science technology accomplishment or a political accomplishment?
I think it was a political accomplishment and was also a personal accomplishment. Even today, you meet Russian engineers and scientists and Americans who worked on the project, and they have very warm memories of their personal interactions and an understanding that they can communicate and can work together, which is something that we didn't know that could happen. But there are other examples of space cooperation where science was a major component of that cooperation.
Let's take a look.
This is the Vega spacecraft. Vegas is an acronym representing the Russian words for Venus and Comet Halley. They decided that they could use the gravity of the planet Venus and ricochet the spacecraft not only to visit Venus, but also to encounter Comet Halley. Thus was born the Vega mission. This was the beginning of Soviet opening up in their space program. They realized that not only did they have the reputation to gain for being open, they also had the opportunity for cooperation.
And maybe I'm coming from a bad place to ask this question, but here is a country that can't build a television that doesn't explode. Are they really technological equal in space?
Well, they probably aren't technologically equal, but they certainly have the technological experience that we don't have. We've done many things in parallel, and we might gain a bit more of information if we do it jointly.
Thanks very much, Kathy.
You're very welcome.
You know, we talk about space cooperation, and obviously this is a really good example, because the Vega spacecraft was built in the Soviet Union, and yet it's on exhibit here in Washington, D.C., our nation's capital. But when there's cooperation, is there always trust between the two parties? We'll take a look at that next when we come back, so don't go away.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Here's why the Sarches are another Tylenol extended relief family. I get headaches from stress on the job. That's my story. The pain would make me just want to go home and hide. Now I get relief that lasts my entire workday.
Now Christine uses Tylenol Extended Relief with this unique bi-layer caplet. One layer of strong relief to attack the pain quickly, and one layer to make sure that strong relief lasts.
Extended relief. It does the job.
Tylenol Extended Relief. Strong relief right away. Strong relief the whole day.
Every morning I wake up starving. Must feel that dreaming. So I go to Burger King for a croissant sandwich with ham, egg, and cheese, plus hash browns and coffee, all for just $1.99. $1.99? I must still be dreaming.
Breakfast at Burger King.
I eat a lot of chicken.
Doesn't look like the stuff you buy in the store.
It's just like you cut it at home.
Now there's Lewis Rich carving board chicken.
Carving board. Lewis Rich.
Just like homemade. Good sandwich.
So you can just get this at the supermarket.
Yes.
Switch to Rich. Lewis Rich. Today's taste.
We've had a problem here.
Meet the real men of Apollo 13 on a special edition of Inside Space. Tonight at 9:30, 6:30 Pacific.
You're watching Inside Space on the Sci-Fi Channel.
Citizens living in the grip of fear. A justice system littered with criminals. The evil underworld of the city infesting the streets. It's time to take out the trash. In Sega's Adventures of Batman and Robin video game, vile villains are bent on trashing Gotham City. Fight through incredible 3D animation as Batman or Robin, or team up against the Joker and other vermin. The Adventures of Batman and Robin.
We're back from the National Air and Space Museum in Washington, and these two vehicles, these were not used to launch men into space. This is for launching nuclear weapons into space. This one's Russian, this one's from the United States. Probably at some point in the Cold War they were pointed at each other. It's just a testament to the mistrust that the United States and the Soviet Union had. Of course, a lot of that is changing now. In fact, we've entered into a treaty to cooperate on the International Space Station. That was signed in June of 1994. But with any relationship, trust is born of a whole lot of things, of time and understanding and a lot of adjustment.
Поэтому сегодня, когда
Now that the world is changing in front of us, quite new relations are being established between the United States and Russia, turning into new relations of partners, into new relations which support each other in each and every field. This cannot help but affect cooperation in space.
The International Space Station will be the catalytic action to define a new age. An age where we don't spend our billions of dollars building weapons as we work together, but an age where we work together to make this planet a better place.
Together, we'll be able to achieve faster medical results, which are necessary for the treatment of people on Earth. That is indispensable. That is the fruit of joint cooperation.
We are leaving a millennia defined by conflict and war, by inventions of new weapons. And as we enter a new millennia, we have to learn on this very small planet how to live and work together.
The show is getting too serious. What we need is a mid-program food break. Now, I know you don't think of the National Air and Space Museum as a place with great food, and yet, come on, this way, this way, this way, a pile of space food. Hi, how are you folks doing? From the Sci-Fi Channel, we wonder, would you be willing to try a little space food?
Space food?
Yeah. I have from the kitchens of NASA. Hold on here.
Kitchens of NASA?
Yeah. Would you try it with your eyes closed so you don't know what it is? Absolutely. She'll see it's real. Here, close your eyes. Okay, that's what I'm going to give them, okay? All right, hold on. Open up. What do you think it is?
That is some kind of potato.
Yes. How do you like it?
Fantastic.
So this would replace fresh potatoes?
Yes.
We're having people try space food. Would you guys be willing?
Yeah!
I guess it's not going to be as hard as we thought. All right, open your mouth. Okay, close it.
Open my eyes.
Yeah. First, what do you think it is? You want to try some more?
No. What does it taste like? Using a hash brown.
Hash browns. Very close. They're French fries.
Oh.
Did you like it? You want to try some more? No. Didn't like it that much. All right, close your eyes. Open your mouth. There you go. Okay, Angela, name that food. Oh, come on. Is it bad? That's a peach. Was ist das? It's good?
That was the worst thing I ever ate!
Our lives are ultra intense. We have major pressures. So Secret made something revolutionary for us. Ultra Dry. This is huge. Keeps you drier than any other kind out there. A pH-balanced soft solid that goes on dry and vanishes like that. So 2 clicks give us ultimate dryness. Our lives demand it. Secret Ultra Dry. Strong enough for him. But now, the ultimate in dryness for us.
Houston, we have a problem. The words that shook the universe. Apollo 13, the dramatic space adventure from Universal Pictures, opens June 30th. Hardee's and the Sci-Fi Channel want you to win your own space adventure for 2 at U.S. Space Camp. Enter today to win one of 5 trips to U.S. Space Camp. Send a postcard with your name, address, and phone number to Hardee's Apollo 13 U.S. Space Camp Sweepstakes, P.O. Box 38, New York, New York 10185. Watch the making of Apollo 13 special, June 24th through July 11th. Brought to you by Hardee's and the Sci-Fi Channel.
Many sports cars pack a great deal of power. Unfortunately, they don't leave much room to pack anything else. Introducing the new Nissan 200 SX, a sports car with a 140 horsepower engine up front and a big honkin' trunk in back.
And now, for a limited time, the 200 SX is available with low 2.9% APR financing.
It set the standard in do-it-yourself books. But now, we've made the best even better. Introducing the all-new Home Repair and Improvement series from Time Life Books. With new color illustrations, step-by-step instructions, and a new spiral binding so books lay flat. It's never been easier to save money and create the home you've always wanted. You'll learn how to build a deck your family will enjoy for years. The tricks of the trade to install a new patio. Call now to examine decks, porches, and patios free for 15 days. Keep it for the special low TV price of just $1.99. Use your credit card and get this Stanley tape measure absolutely free. Other volumes will follow. Keep only those you want. The new Home Repair and Improvement series from Time Life Books. We've made the best even better.
Call 1-800-419-6464 now to get decks, porches, and patios for just $1.99. That's 1-800-419-6464.
Hi. Oh, hi. How are you?
Oh, this is wonderful.
It's my first wife. You know, a museum like this chronicles how the future was built, how an airplane was fabricated, or how a space station went in the sky. But for every airplane or balloon or space launch, there have to be people, visionaries, who can take their imagination and say, well, that might be a practical idea. One person who's often looked upon as a visionary is Isaac Asimov. Now, here's a guy who could see the future, and yet he wouldn't fly in an airplane. Anyway, his ideas have been looked upon as science fiction that could be science fact. And there are folks who continue to meet every year to talk about his ideas. In fact, recently we joined them. Want to take a relaxing vacation while stretching the wrinkles in your brain? Well, the Isaac Asimov Seminar in Rensselaerville, New York, is an event where futuristic vision comes of age. Every summer, people from far and wide gather to formulate their own ideas of what the future may bring. All this began with a boy who enjoyed reading pulp fiction and would someday become one of the most forward-thinking minds of our time.
The only thing we can do is look forward into the future, try to figure out what's going to happen if we don't do anything, and what we ought to do to change that if we don't like it.
Leading this year's conference are astronauts Bill Pogue, whose Skylab mission set the American record for the longest time spent in space, and science fiction writer Ben Bova, author of Privateers and Death Dream.
This is a sort of a vacation for people who enjoy thinking. A group of people come together to discuss this year ways of private business going into space, making profits.
I think one of the reasons for focusing on that is because no one's really come up with a good way other than in the communications field.
After a series of large group discussions, conference goers break into small groups to discuss their ideas on how space technology can turn a profit.
We're targeting pharmaceutical companies and providing services for them to grow crystals, grow cells. Basically, we're providing them lab space in low Earth orbit.
It's getting the pharmaceutical companies interested in doing research and perhaps eventually even manufacturing pharmaceuticals out there. But in zero or low G, an awful lot of things that can be done as far as research goes that can't be done here on Earth.
I'm in the communications group, and we've created a thing called the Baguette. It's a global communications device.
That's the tallest antenna there is. You put something up in a Clark orbit, the one central office, and the call goes from here to there and right back down again. It's cheap, it's easy, it's wireless.
On the last night of the conference, Bova and Pogue serve as judges as each group presents their ideas. And while the presentations range from formal to comedic, this group of visionaries demonstrate that the future is as dark or bright as we make it. 4, 3, 2, 1.
On Friday, July 28th, Universal Pictures invites you to a world like none you've ever seen before. Kevin Costner. Waterworld, rated PG-13, starts July 28th.
Your heart's pounding.
It's terrifying.
And you feel hot. It's like a firing range.
We asked some of the hottest new comics on stage to switch antiperspirants and try new advanced formula Degree.
So you think this stuff works, huh?
As your body heat rises, Degree now releases even more protection when you need it most.
I'm dry, I feel great. I feel protected.
Switch to the antiperspirant that's body heat activated.
Hanging out on stage, out with my friends. I'm cool. I've got Degree.
New advanced formula Degree, now with an even higher degree of protection.
Just checking, you know?
It's on air and online. Television's first interactive showcase for computing, multimedia, and digital technology. CNET Central, coming up next. You're watching Inside Space on the Sci-Fi Channel.
Now, I work only with the flexible cooked pickles. Le moustache, the happy, smiley face.
Clausen pickles are never cooked and always kept cold, so they're crunchier than cooked pickles.
I cannot work with these. Pretty tasty, though.
Clausen, they're crunchier. It's hard to believe the idea escaped us until now. Introducing new Clausen sandwich slices. A perfect fit for a perfect sandwich. New Clausen sandwich slices, even sliced up. They're crunchy.
On my really pounding headaches, Tylenol didn't always get rid of all the pain. I've found that 2 Advil work better than 2 Tylenol gel caps. For my tough headaches, Advil just works better. Advil, advanced medicine for pain. Every morning I wake up starving. Must be all that dreaming. So I go to Burger King for a croissant sandwich with ham, egg, and cheese, plus hash browns and coffee, all for just $1.99. $1.99? I must still be dreaming.
Breakfast at Burger King.
We're back from the National Air and Space Museum in Washington, and this is the Skylab Orbital Workshop. Now, this is not a mock-up. This is real space hardware. In fact, NASA originally had problems with the solar panels of Skylab while it was in space. It was innovation on NASA's part that enabled the first Skylab to stay up and be functional, but if not, this would have been launched. Now, normally, just the solution of a problem is the reward for innovation. But Discover magazine takes that one step further. Every year, they reward innovation, and sometimes that has a lot to do with space. World's fairs have historically been a showcase for inventions. Although you can't find one of these in an office today, in 1876, the typewriter was the key to faster and neater communication. In 1879, Alexander Graham Bell's telephone was the talk of the town. In 1904, Henry Ford said, "Meet me in St. Louis and come by car." Travel was propelled to new heights with the introduction of the airplane, along with the most delicious invention ever, the ice cream cone, also in 1904. Perhaps the most celestial discovery of our century was the liquid-fueled rocket, invented by Robert Goddard in 1926. Now, for the 5th year in a row, Discover magazine celebrates those inventors whose creativity knows no boundaries. 4,000 nominees were vying for the top honors in 7 categories. Not surprisingly, space was a common denominator.
And the award goes to, if I can read it, Daniel Lyons at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory.
What I won the award for here tonight was aerobraking Magellan.
By dragging its sail-like antenna through Venus' thick atmosphere, the Magellan probe was slowed down enough to get closer to the surface of Venus, providing scientists with new data and proving a new way of maneuvering in space.
When you land, you just shift the power to the wheels and drive right on off the runway and onto the street.
The air car design is narrow enough to drive down the road and fly in the sky as is.
HAZBOT stands for the Hazardous Material Handling Robot.
A spin-off from space robotics, HAZBOT is used here on the ground. Rather than risking human life in a dangerous situation, a robot can be used.
It's the first high-powered satellite to the consumer in the U.S.
The winner in the sight category was a product which enables you to be the ultimate couch potato, with 150 channels to choose from. Sometimes ideas for great inventions stem from a near tragedy. For example, this new parachute from Ballistic Recovery Systems, which can protect an entire airplane, not just individual people.
Our founder, Boris Popov, who had a hang gliding accident once, several years ago. A boat pulled him up too aggressively, and when he broke the glider by pulling it so hard, Boris wished he had a parachute. He didn't then. He went to work shortly afterward.
The parachute will also benefit the Space Shuttle program, returning its booster rockets to Earth more quickly.
Good solid rocket booster separation confirmed.
Geomi got its neat name from 2 words, geo, meaning Earth, and ami, meaning friend. This packaging material is as environmentally friendly as it gets. No trees need to be cut down, and it's completely biodegradable and totally recyclable. And the company is already thinking of other worldly uses.
Shipping in space is going to be easier using Geomi because it takes up less room in a ship than would any of the other packaging materials currently on the market.
Keeping in touch with the office from anywhere in the world is never a problem with the Magnaphone, a satellite telephone that fits in a briefcase.
As the units get down to PC size, you'll see that will be a truly portable PC office.
It only takes one good idea, so put your thinking caps on and get ready for next year's Discover Magazine Awards.
I think that everything that can be thought of can eventually be accomplished.
I'm not easily impressed by museums, but this place knocks me out. If you're in Washington, D.C., you must come to the National Air and Space Museum. Meantime, if you'd like to write us with your ideas about the future or space, here's our address. Write to Inside Space, USA Network Sci-Fi Channel, 1230 Avenue of the Americas, New York, New York, 10020. Or from cyberspace, we're on the net at maxsfc@aol.com. And just imagine if we all started communicating, where would we be one lifetime from now? I'm Geoff Fox, Inside Space.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Coming up on the Sci-Fi Channel.
Acquiring downlink. 4, 3, 2, 1.
For millions of years, the curious ones studied their world, little by little, stone by stone, stream by stream. Then suddenly, as if by magic, they leaped high and looked down. And what they saw changed them forever. Missions to planet Earth, this time on Inside Space. Wonder what space can do for the Earth? You've come to the right place. Hi, I'm Geoff Fox, and this time on Inside Space, we're at NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center in Greenbelt, Maryland. This would be the home office, so to speak, for NASA's mission to planet Earth. And this time, you get a good idea of what the Earth looks like from a space perspective. And really, there's a lot more to Earth when looked at from above. For most of us, planet Earth is all about the surface. But there's a lot more to this old world than what you see at eye level. Two shuttle missions, STS-59 and STS-68, studied Earth's environment from low Earth orbit. And for both, it was a case of flying over to look under. Both of these missions orbited a synthetic aperture radar device, which can make measurements on a planet's surface over just about any region at any time, regardless of weather or sunlight conditions. But radar waves can do what visible can't. They can penetrate clouds, see through vegetation, ice, and dry sand. The two Space Radar Lab missions provided a peek at many regions that are inaccessible to scientists on the ground. NASA used this electronic powerhouse to study the changes in our global environment and to try and differentiate human influences from natural ones.
We all heard about problems around the world like deforestation and air pollution and water pollution and the destruction of the environment. And we would like to find out how fast these processes are occurring.
These multi-frequency, multi-polarization radars can zoom in on any part of the biosphere. In April, astronauts aboard STS-59 sought the reasons why drought plagued thirsty California residents. SRL-1 astronauts also unearthed a thing or two about our planet's history. For instance, they found riverbeds buried beneath the sands of Egypt and Sudan.
I know it's hard to believe, but everything we're seeing here is covered by sand. These radar rivers really are under the sand sheets.
These revelations will help climatologists determine if global deserts are expanding. In August, the mission to planet Earth sought a repeat performance from STS-68, but failed to get off the ground.
And have main engine cut off.
An overheated fuel pump caused onboard computers to abort the flight just 1.9 seconds before liftoff. The astronauts emerged unharmed, but disappointed. A month later, the SRL-2 crew made the leap into low Earth orbit, flying over the same spots it did during the SRL-1 flight. This time, astronauts searched for clues as to how different the same places look under an autumn light. The SRL missions were the first manned flights to use this brand new type of radar, but SAR can do more than tell us about the ground beneath our feet. Earlier this year, search and rescue teams tested SAR technology to find a wrecked plane in Northern California. SAR should help rescuers save lives with increased efficiency, and more generally, space radar images can protect life in Earth's biosphere, which may be threatened by the hustle and bustle of human activity. Sometimes, it's hard to know if we're coming or going. To help us learn what's ahead, it's very useful to know what's going on above and below. I'm here with Chris Scalise, and we're talking about mission to planet Earth. And when we think, or when most people think about NASA and space, we think about spacecraft looking up and out. This is different because it's looking back down.
Yes, well, NASA's had a long history of looking at the Earth, particularly here at the Goddard Space Flight Center. Mission to planet Earth is to take a step from where we've been in the past at looking at the Earth and looking at the weather, atmospheric composition, like the Upper Atmosphere Research Satellite, to look at the Earth as a system and try and understand how the Earth is changing and how we can react to those changes in the most beneficial way for all of us.
Can you give me some practical applications, some things that are going to be able to be seen from this mission?
Well, there's a number of missions in Mission to Planet Earth, of course. It started with the launch of the Upper Atmosphere Research Satellite, which is looking at atmospheric chemistry. From that, we've gained a considerable understanding of how ozone depletion occurs. That led or helped lead to the Montreal Protocol, which controlled the amount of emissions of CFCs, for instance. The first mission in EOS, which is part of Mission to Planet Earth, is EOS-AM.
That's this satellite right here?
That's correct.
If I'm watching this at home and I'm not a scientist, how is this going to impact my life? Or is it?
Well, it's of course a research satellite, and the goal is that we want to see how the Earth is changing, understand the dynamics that are causing that change. Once we understand that, we can do planning better, we can better farm the lands, better make predictions on how to farm, help with irrigation. Some of the images from the last years, when we had the flood, for instance, there were some satellite images that were taken of that. It showed the extent of the flooding and the impact of the flooding and the droughts. This will provide us with greater data.
This is a brand new satellite image that shows soil moisture. And the darker it is, the more moist it is. And what you see here on the border between Minnesota and Iowa, South Dakota and Nebraska is a very shallow and temporary Great Lake. It is as if another Great Lake has been added to the map of the United States. Very shallow and temporary, but the damage in this area is extensive.
Up next, could there be another Earth?
4, 3, 2, 1.
Inside Space is brought to you by Jeep, makers of Grand Cherokee, Cherokee, and Wrangler.
Adventurous nature lover seeks outdoor type for getaway weekends. Must like camping and hiking, interest in kayaking, a plus. Ownership of Jeep Cherokee, a definite plus. Social climbing highbrows need not apply. P.S. Please send picture of Jeep Cherokee.
The International Association of Wildland Fire just approved a nasal decongestant for firefighters on duty. It's Sudafed, approved because of the way Sudafed clears up sinus and allergy congestion. Approved because it relieves painful sinus pressure. And most importantly, approved because Sudafed gives you all this relief with no drowsy side effects. Strong medicine, no drowsiness. Sudafed clears you up without slowing you down.
You're watching Inside Space on the Sci-Fi Channel.
Worried you might have termites? Call 1-800-TERMINEX to know for sure.
Where's that number?
Nobody offers a better guarantee. Even if you misplaced our number, just remember 1-800-TERMINEX. Call now.
How fast does maximum strength Anbesol start to relieve toothache pain? Before you can say Anbesol. Get maximum strength relief from toothache pain on contact. Maximum strength Anbesol. Put it on. The pain is gone.
Measuring the Earth from above, then capturing it in a database can be fun. It can also end up being nerve-wracking. You'll see what I mean. Here's Jeffrey Lyons inside virtual space.
Since we've been talking about looking at living worlds like Earth, we thought we should show you how you can build your own. You do it with something called SimEarth, the living planet. And the one thing you've got to give the package's creators credit for is being incredibly thorough. But then I guess you have to be when you're in the business of designer worlds. SimEarth is a detailed program that is so full of facts, it had to be accompanied by a 220-page user's manual. Now, if you're wondering whether you really want to bother with a game that even requires a manual, then SimEarth probably isn't for you. The manufacturers of SimEarth state quite clearly that they think of this program not as a game, but as a software toy. The reason for this is that SimEarth isn't really a pulse-pounding high-energy experience where you rack up points and try to win. It's more of a tool that you're supposed to enjoy fooling around with. You start the game, the toy, with a planet in some early stage of its development. Then, using a set of godlike tools, you bring your world along through its evolution. If you have problems handling responsibility, this product is not for you. You can trigger natural events like hurricanes and tornadoes and tidal waves, as well as controlling man-made factors like nuclear weapons, pollution, and waste control. Now, in some instances, you start off with human life. In others, you get to evolve your own. There are several different planetary scenarios, including a water world with no continents, a stuck in the Stone Age kind of world, and good old Earth in 1990, which is by far the scariest. Darwin fans will like SimEarth, as well as ecophiles and exobiologists. Any of these sound like you? The graphics here are nothing to write home about. And SimEarth suffers from the same identity crisis that many recent software offerings do. Educating and entertaining at the same time isn't easy, but that's the art of this budding art form. And at least with SimEarth, you could design a world where the two would never be in conflict. I'm Jeffrey Lyons, Inside Virtual Space.
While NASA and the international space community begin to conduct coordinated science missions to planet Earth, the NBC television network has launched a science fiction mission to a parallel planet Earth.
It's just so hard to believe this is anything like Earth was hundreds of years ago.
It's a second chance. The odds are unbelievable.
Earth 2 takes place 200 years in the future when the population of the depleted Earth is forced to live aboard an orbiting space station. A covert mission is organized to colonize a distant Earth-like planet that could offer a new beginning for all humankind.
We talked a lot to NASA. Took a field trip up to NASA. We had a couple of consultants that we were online with all the time, and a lot of the designs that we actually implemented were from NASA.
Inside Space went on location with Earth 2 to see how today's television envisions tomorrow's reality.
We wanted a kind of a messy, industrialized vision of the future, and a lot of the designs that our production design people had come up with weren't that far off, and they went up there and spent a lot of time at NASA and talked about, you know, would this work that way? And
I mean, our escape pods are modeled after the Apollo modules, and basically the principles of physics are still the same, and we
even they had projected. We said, would it be possible that these things would exist 200 years in the future? They said, yeah, the principle of physics won't change.
I mean, a lot of it was born from the actual designs of space stations that they have renderings for at NASA, that they obviously of space ships that have already been built or are in the planning stages.
This is me, Jessica Steen, playing Dr. Julia Heller, the lead physician on the advanced voyage to Earth 2. Just want to take you around and introduce you to my friends. Got our real trees made to look fake. This is not environmentally sound. We're working on that. We've got our massive land beast with wheels. Who am I? Deborah Ferrantino plays Devon Adair. Space Mom. Space Mom. Morgan Martin, level 4 government guy. Chances of us getting a second chance are pretty slim. That's fiction. That's the science fiction part. The real part is that we're probably going to blow Earth 1 if we don't watch our step.
Earth 2's cast and crew are enthralled with the pristine and beautiful New Mexico environment, and they go out of their way to lessen the production's negative impact on the land.
Ile, which means Earth. Earth. Very apropos. For our discussion today,
we've done such a lousy job. Hopefully, the consciousness that's being raised will be able to take care of this planet that we're on, as opposed to thinking about going somewhere else. What can we wreck next? Yeah.
If we look towards the future as being, wow, we really did clean up our act. We did do right by the Earth and by the creatures of the Earth and by ourselves, and
we'll still have some of this.
And then we'll still have some of this.
I mean, I know I'm recycling a lot more than I ever did.
Yeah.
It's not that tough to do.
Every time we leave, we never leave trash.
I definitely think that if we don't take care of Earth 1, we'll see you on Earth 2.
Is there another Earth-like planet to escape to? Well, aside from a few bends in the laws of physics, Earth 2's writers do try to be realistic about future technologies, like virtual reality.
Size our gear. And you can flip it around.
Turn it on.
And it lights up.
And when you all see it, it lights up.
When you put in the other side and you tune in a certain channel, you can create your own environment. And everybody, whoever else comes and tunes into your station will have to play your game by your rules. It's virtual reality. It's virtually whatever you want your reality to be.
And on Earth 2, an unmistakable reality is that humans are not alone. Riding on the shoulders of Atlas when Inside Space returns, so don't go away.
The International Association of Wildland Fire just approved a nasal decongestant for firefighters on duty. It's Sudafed, approved because of the way Sudafed clears up sinus and allergy congestion. Approved because it relieves painful sinus pressure. And most importantly, approved because Sudafed gives you all this relief with no drowsy side effects. Strong medicine, no drowsiness. Sudafed clears you up without slowing you down.
What can we legally say about the incredible power and handling of the Eagle Vision? We're going to find out because today we're with the law firm of Goober, Bowler, and Pez. Pez. What do you think?
No comment at this time.
What about you guys, lawyers?
At the end of it tonight.
Enjoy the ride?
Off the record? Yes.
And what do you think of Vision's lease price?
I say lease rates do not include title, taxes, license, and insurance.
And dealer prices, maybe? Just see your Eagle dealer.
Lease Vision ESI now for just $229 a month.
It hurt me to see Mom suffering. She always had an excuse not to see a doctor. It's just the way she is. Finally, the stomach pain got so bad that she had to go. Was she relieved when the doctor said Mylanta?
Nothing soothes away heartburn faster than Mylanta liquid. It's the one doctors recommend most, even over prescription drugs for occasional heartburn and acid indigestion.
My doctor said Mylanta.
It's coming. More terror than you've ever felt before. Dare you let it in your library.
Stephen King's newest tale of horror, Insomnia. Now this beautiful $27.95 hardcover is yours for just $7.95 when you join the Stephen King Library. Pet Sematary, Needful Things, Christine, the Academy Award-winning Misery. Plus Stephen King's newest books as soon as they're published, all in original hardcover editions, all at just $14.95 each, all with a cancel anytime guarantee. Call now and Insomnia is yours free for 10 days. If you're not terrified, return it and cancel. Otherwise, we'll send you a new volume every 6 weeks, each with a 10-day free trial. There's never an obligation to buy. Summon Insomnia now and enter the unearthly library of Stephen King. Get this skeleton keychain absolutely free when you order now.
Call 1-800-946-6161 now to get Insomnia. That's 1-800-946-6161.
We're back from NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center. Above my head, a scale model of the shuttle. The payload bay doors are open. Oftentimes, inside that payload bay, you'll find Space Lab, which increases the astronauts' space to work in a shirt-sleeve environment and often monitors changing conditions here on Earth. You know, the shuttle, when it's in space, is controlled from Houston. But Space Lab is different, and so it's controlled from its own center in Huntsville, Alabama, which is where we sent Kim Garris this time.
We're in Space Lab control at Marshall Space Flight Center. Here, scientists direct Space Lab experiments conducted on the shuttle. One of those experiments is called Atlas, and its results are helping us to better understand the ozone layer and energy coming from the sun. From space, all our planet can be seen as one, the land, sea, and sky all functioning together to sustain life on an isolated world that is surrounded by lifelessness. This is Earth, a place where in the past life did not always thrive as it does now, a place where in the future life may cease if not protected. The first step in protecting this life is to understand the fragile bubble which preserves it, the atmosphere.
Atlas is a series of missions that we fly on the space shuttle to make measurements of the Earth's atmosphere and also of the sun's energy coming into the Earth's atmosphere.
Atlas, which stands for Atmospheric Laboratory for Applications in Science, is part of the Space Shuttle's Space Lab, a futuristic laboratory contained in the shuttle's cargo bay. From this orbital perch, Atlas can study the Earth's precious ozone layer and see how our sun affects it.
Now, the ozone in the stratosphere is very important to living beings on the surface of the planet because it absorbs ultraviolet radiation in certain wavelengths that, if the ozone were not there, could come to the surface and could be dangerous to living things. Our particular emphasis is research. We want to understand how ozone changes.
All of the Atlas missions, including the most recent Atlas III, are directed from this control room at the Marshall Space Flight Center.
During the mission, we can see from this screen where we're located in terms of not only geographically, but you also see whether it's in daylight or night. Some of our measurements are made at sunrise and sunset, so it's important to us where it crosses.
This is an empty room with lots of computers now, but what about during a shuttle mission? What's it like in here?
Well, I guess the expression that the atmosphere is electric would be apropos here. The levels of concentration that are required by everybody in this room to run the mission are quite intense.
And after the mission is over and the crew is safely home, the work of compiling the information the experiments collected is also done here. Work that may help us better understand our planet's atmosphere and the things we can do to protect it.
From space, we can see the globe. And so the view of space, not only from an emotional level, but also from a scientific level, gives us the ability of seeing the whole globe. And that's the one thing you can do from space that you cannot do from the ground.
ATLAS is just one of many experiments made to study the ozone layer. In fact, into the next century, we'll be looking at data from the total ozone mapping spectrometer.
Inside Space is brought to you by Benadryl Allergy Medication, the histamine blocker for strong, effective allergy relief of runny nose, itchy eyes, and sneezing.
Julia Murray is doing something her allergies and the pollen never let her do before. She's watching one of the finest 9-year-olds ever to play the game. Thanks to Benadryl, the histamine blocker. It actually blocks the histamine that triggers allergic reactions. Take Benadryl and take back your life. And try Benadryl dye-free, the allergy medication with no artificial colors or dyes.
Excuse me, could you tell me how to get to Bakersville?
Sure. Take 23 north to M33 west to I-14 south, and you're there.
Thanks.
You bet.
Excuse me, can you tell me how to get to Bakersville?
Head right over those mountains.
Thanks.
You're watching Inside Space on the Sci-Fi Channel.
So you think all iced teas are the same? Let's take a blind taste test and listen. Try this first iced tea. Now try this one.
Sounds like a winner. In a blind taste test, Nestea beat Lipton by a sound margin.
So tender, so innocent, your gums, so vulnerable to the wicked germs hoping to ravage them. Insidiously, they can inflict gum disease. These germs are not fiction. They are in your mouth, threatening your gums. Stop them now with Listerine. Only germ-killing Listerine is clinically proven to help prevent the gum disease gingivitis. Listerine, the power of prevention. They're germs. They deserve to die.
Austria is in the center of Europe, it's in the center of the Alpine region, and there is a specific need for data and information regarding the environment, the protection of the environment, and therefore we need satellite data coming from space to give a global view.
Portugal actually is in charge of covering the largest part of the Atlantic Ocean from any European country. Therefore, we have needs in ocean telecommunications, remote sensing for oceanographic purposes.
We hope to go into Earth observation and telecommunication applications. And I'm here to establish contacts with developing nations who have already developed their own programs.
if you look at our country, it is a very long one, and with huge ocean areas outside, some 2 million square kilometers of Norwegian jurisdiction. And we are interested in controlling these areas in a proper way, and space that is Earth observation from spacecrafts will be of interest in this context.
A better manage of our resources, because we know what goes on from space, a better assessment of the quality of our environment, water, the health of our forests, for example, we can assess from space.
You know, sometimes you get so close to a problem that you really can't see it. That's why it's tough to make decisions about the environment, for instance, when all you can see is one little spot on the Earth. It's important in a situation to get above it all, which of course is what the space shuttle does. And now with computers, you don't even have to leave your seat. If you'd like to contact us at Inside Space, we would really like to hear from you. Drop us a line at Inside Space, USA Network Sci-Fi Channel, 1230 Avenue of the Americas, New York, New York, 10020. Or we're represented in cyberspace on the internet at maxsfc@aol.com. From the Goddard Space Flight Center, where even TV hosts have to wear badges, I'm Geoff Fox. I'll see you next time, Inside Space.
This is the visible portion of the Japanese Aster instrument. This is a short and medium wave.
This is Richard Hart. This week on CNET Central, video conferencing, the technology that will change the way we communicate, and high-tech gifts for Father's Day. All this week on CNET Central. Coming up next on the Sci-Fi Channel.
And some other aspects of the Earth system. This instrument, the Aster instrument, is principally looking at the land surface. This is the MODIS instrument. It's looking at the Earth in a broad spectral range from the visible to the infrared. It's about 1 kilometer imaging with some 250 and 500 meter channels. And it is looking at the productivity of the oceans, productivity of the land, geological formations, as well as looking at some atmospheric constituents.
As far as translating comics into movies or TV shows, and characterization is everything. No matter how good a story is, if you don't believe in the character, and if you don't care about the character, you're just reading a story and it's forgettable. People often criticize movies and they criticize TV series. They say this wasn't good enough or that wasn't good enough. What I marvel at is the fact that so many of them are as good as they are. There is so much that can go wrong, you know? And if something goes wrong in any area, it can affect the whole show. The thing we have to watch out for is we mustn't lose the integrity of the characters. We mustn't get so commercial that we're thinking of the business deal and not the stories, because our lifeblood is story. Basically, we're storytellers.
Coming up on the Sci-Fi Channel.
Acquiring downlink.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Turbo pressure, sparkling rain, ice cold fuel, and white hot flame. Propulsion extreme, this time on Inside Space.
This place just might be the ultimate speed shop. Hi, I'm Geoff Fox, and this time on Inside Space, we're at Rocketdyne in Canoga Park, California. I have my glasses on, not for seeing tonight, but for safety purposes, and we're going to talk about what it takes to get objects into space. Now, for the space shuttle, What it takes is 3 of these. These are the Space Shuttle main engines. Pound for pound, they're by far the highest power motors ever made. Each has a turbo pump, developing about 100 horsepower for every pound. Now, your car engine is lucky if it can generate half of 1 horsepower per pound. When the shuttle engines ignite, their main turbo pumps spin up to 37,000 RPM. That's more than 1,000 times faster than your automobile engine at 60 miles an hour. And they pump a lot of fuel. The 3 engines would drain an average family swimming pool in 25 seconds. But they don't pump water. They pump super cold liquid hydrogen at minus 423 degrees Fahrenheit. And if you punched a hole in the fuel line, you would get a geyser of liquid hydrogen 36 miles high. That cold fuel is shot into a combustion chamber where it joins a spray of liquid oxygen, and together they burn at more than 6,000 degrees Fahrenheit. That's hotter than the boiling point of iron. During their few minutes of flight, the Space Shuttle main engines develop more than 37 million horsepower, and you can think of that as 23 Hoover dams cranking out to the max. Now, as you can well imagine, it takes quite a shop to build these puppies. So I asked Master Mechanic Doug Coots to show us around. The reason that we're visiting with Doug today, tell him what we make here, Doug.
We make Space Shuttle main engines and Atlas and Delta program spindle launch vehicles.
When I think of engine, I think of what's under the hood of my car.
Right.
There's a difference between that engine and this kind of engine, right?
Exactly. This is a very, very precision engine that are one of a kind. There's 500,000 horsepower in each one at sea level. The pieces operate in from minus 473 degrees all the way up to 5,000 to 6,000 degrees Fahrenheit in the nozzle area on the Space Shuttle main engine.
Come, let's walk.
The motor is composed of 5 main parts: the nozzle, the power head, the MCC, which couples the power head, the main combustion chamber, and then the turbo pumps, which feed the hot gases. The thrust chamber has 2 main parts. It has the back, which is the nozzle end, and it has the center venturi section. And that's where the air is introduced? Well, that's where everything is, when the gases are ignited, it's squeezed down, and that pressure squeezing down wants to get out and expand and push out, and the nozzle directs that, and you gimbal the motor to point it. It's all controlled by microprocessors. They gimbal it using these. These are outriggers, and the outriggers allow them to point it, direct all this thrust in the right direction.
And so a computer will control to make sure that when the thrust finally comes out, it's pointing in the right direction?
Exactly. This is a lot of the tubes that fit in a Space Shuttle main engine.
Oh, this is where the cooling goes?
This is all the nozzle. These are the tubes that'll be fit up, and they'll be put into a particular order. Let's go and see how they do that order.
Okay. Everything else that we have looked at has been machine shoppish. And yet now we're wearing white gowns, so I assume that there's more accent on cleanliness in here?
Yes, we assemble all the tubes. We stack them.
This is a 8-to-1 thrust chamber, and it's we just got through putting the tubes in it, and we are ready to start nickeling and alloying. And this is a new job.
So in other words, you'll be putting a coating on this?
Yeah, we'll be putting nickel in the groove. And after we put the nickel in the groove, inside the groove, then we will start the silver plating.
Right. And how many of these for each?
600 posts for each main injector. The main injector tube shoots the gases out. This is a MCC.
This is where the combustion takes place.
That's right. That's where it gets throttled down. It's a venturi action. And that rocket engine is all holes. If you look here, there's 600 holes and holes. All the coolant, all that liquid oxygen flows through here to keep all this cool, because otherwise it would just melt. That MCC will fit right under here, and all those posts will stick out in this area. And
that's the piece that we just saw being welded.
That's the piece we just saw being welded. This is the main injector that we saw all those posts welded into. They're shooting the hot gases, just a lot of sparks that shoot out, and you can see that when they launch. You see all the sparks coming out. That'll ignite it originally.
The original igniter.
The original igniter.
And this is actually a manifold like we just saw over on the bench over there?
Exactly. Only this has the main injector installed in it. This is actually an old one. This design is not
used. This is flown already?
This is already flown. They fly up to, they're supposed to fly 20 times. This is the fitting area on the space shuttle motors. They take all the pipes and they put them in a jig and then they weld them right there. They fit them here.
So this is pretty much, after this is done, it's finished,
That's
isn't it?
right.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Inside Space is brought to you by Eagle. Test drive an Eagle Vision at your local Eagle dealer.
So, Barb, what kind of car are you driving now?
I just leased an Acura Legend.
Ouch. You don't want to test drive the Eagle Vision, then.
Why not? Come on.
No.
Come on, I just want to test drive it. Give it a go.
Okay. Don't say I didn't warn you now.
Okay, we'll be back.
Barbara's back in the Eagle Vision. How was it?
Oh, it reminds me of my Acura. It's great. Why don't you want me to test drive it?
Probably the least price. I would guess she paid more.
Lease Vision ESI now for just $229 a month.
The International Association of Wildland Fire just approved a nasal decongestant for firefighters on duty. It's Sudafed, approved because of the way Sudafed clears up sinus and allergy congestion. Approved because it relieves painful sinus pressure. And most importantly, approved because Sudafed gives you all this relief with no drowsy side effects. Strong medicine, no drowsiness. Sudafed clears you up without slowing you down.
You're watching Inside Space on the Sci-Fi Channel.
What a night! The Burger King opening night party for Disney's Pocahontas. Now in theaters. What'd you think?
I loved it.
Non-stop action. Excellent adventure. Only Pocahontas has it all. Only Burger King lets your kids relive the magic of Pocahontas with these 8 action toys. They get one with each Pocahontas Kids Club hamburger meal for just $1.99. Personally, I found Percy's performance especially moving.
Burger King, get your burger's worth.
Rockets like this Atlas over here have served us well. They've sent men to space, they've sent robots to the outer planets. They use liquid fuel, which is a good way to get a rocket up and off, but it's not the only way. From the earliest rocket blast to the most recent, one thing has remained constant. Space vehicles of all kinds have used chemical propellants to drive themselves into space. Now, that may have been fine for the present and the past, but what about the future? If we're to continue to explore our solar system and maybe even beyond, what kind of technology will we need? Enter the concept of nuclear propulsion. It's an idea that isn't exactly new. In fact, it's been around about as long as the American space program has. One of its leading proponents is Dr. Stanley Borowski of NASA's Lewis Research Center.
The Lewis Research Center during the 1960s was the lead NASA center for developing nuclear thermal rocket propulsion. During that time period, during the 60s and early 70s, the United States spent close to $1.4 billion in nuclear thermal rocket development. Its primary driver was to develop nuclear rockets for missions to Mars, and unfortunately, with the demise of the Mars mission, so went the nuclear thermal rocket. But if we're ever interested in doing some serious missions to the Moon or Mars, it's a very powerful technology which has been demonstrated.
So why would we need nuclear propulsion to make it to Mars? The answer is simple: time and money. Whereas it took the Apollo astronauts 3.5 days to make it to the Moon with chemical propellants, a nuclear-propelled spacecraft could make it in as little as 24 hours. And while the trip to Mars would normally take about 9 months, nuclear power could get you there in half the time. But whenever the subject of nuclear power is raised, another concern quickly follows: the danger of nuclear radiation.
It's definitely a powerful technology, and it's one that can't be treated lightly. But also it has many, many positive advantages. I mean, nuclear propulsion has revolutionized the Navy. We have submarines that are down for months at a time. We have aircraft carriers that are all nuclear powered, surface cruisers that are all nuclear powered. And I'd hate to have to rack up the oil bill for all of those ships if they were not nuclear powered. You know, as soon as people hear nuclear propulsion and the fact that there's radiation involved, they're worried. But in fact, space is riddled with radiation from galactic cosmic rays, from solar flares, from solar wind. Most of the missions that have been talked about with chemical propulsion, they're usually what they call minimum energy missions. They take a long, loping, close to 9-month mission out to Mars. And during that time, the astronauts could be collecting anywhere up to 50 rem of radiation from just natural sources. And with nuclear propulsion, cut that trip time in half. So overall, you'd be with a nuclear rocket engine, you're actually receiving less radiation than you would if you're using regular chemical rockets, which are non-nuclear.
But despite the assurances to the contrary, there's still a lot of fear regarding nuclear-powered rockets and their safety. At present, NASA has no plans to use nuclear power or propulsion for any of its near-term missions.
I know a number of NASA employees, as well as myself, are hopeful that in the future, when NASA gets interested again in doing some of these exciting human-type missions to the planets or to the moon, we think undoubtedly we'll have to come back to that kind of area because it's very, very valuable.
A journey to the outer limits of our solar system can be a long and lonely one. Years can pass before a space probe reaches even the initial milepost, let alone its final destination. And the main problem is, there's no place to stop for gas. Power needs to be supplied for long periods of time. Power for guidance, power for science, power for propulsion. And the one device that has consistently come through on these solitary treks is the radioisotope thermoelectric generator, or RTG. RTGs convert heat from decaying plutonium into electricity. In other words, nuclear power. Many deep space explorers have relied on them, including Galileo, which last year dazzled scientists with its images of comet Shoemaker-Levy's crash into Jupiter. RTGs also fueled the Voyager missions, which gave us bird's-eye views of Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune, and Uranus. Two robot explorers, Pioneers 10 and 11, were launched almost 21 years ago, and to everyone's surprise, their RTGs still keep going and going and going. The Pioneers, now the most remote man-made objects in space, are on their way to explore the boundaries of our solar system, where the sun is just another star. Despite their solid track record, some feel that deploying any other nuclear-powered spacecraft could endanger human lives.
For example, in 1997, NASA plans to launch the Cassini space probe. That's to contain 73 pounds of plutonium-238. And then it's to do what's called a flyby, or a gravity assist maneuver, to increase its velocity so it could reach Saturn. So this probe will come flying back at Earth, hurtling back at Earth, using the Earth's gravity to increase its velocity. And it's just going to be up above this planet about 400 or 500 miles. If there's a slight miscalculation, we could have 77 pounds of plutonium coming down on us on this planet. 1 pound of plutonium, just 1 pound of plutonium, is enough to kill everybody on the planet.
Although an environmental impact study released last year shows that the chances of that happening are 1 in a million, the Department of Energy plans to stop funding work on RTGs by 1996. The Clinton administration had hoped to come up with a final space nuclear policy early this year, but with Congress taking a more conservative turn, the White House has found other matters more pressing. Unless the policy is reversed, the Cassini space probe to Saturn will be the last nuclear-powered explorer. Another deep space project, the Pluto Fast Flyby, may be grounded altogether. And if it is, a golden opportunity for science may be lost. Pluto and its big moon Charon are now relatively close to the Sun. If a probe doesn't reach this peculiar double world by 2007, when Pluto's atmosphere will begin to freeze out onto the planet's surface, scientists will miss the chance to see what the atmosphere is made of, an important clue to the formation of the solar system. And that chance won't come again for the next 250 years.
The International Association of Wildland Fire just approved the nasal decongestant for firefighters on duty. It's Sudafed, approved because of the way Sudafed clears up sinus and allergy congestion. Approved because it relieves painful sinus pressure. And most importantly, approved because Sudafed gives you all this relief with no drowsy side effects. Strong medicine, no drowsiness. Sudafed clears you up without slowing you down.
Adventurous nature lover seeks outdoor type for getaway weekends. Must like camping and hiking, interest in kayaking, a plus. Ownership of Jeep Cherokee, a definite plus. Social climbing highbrows need not apply. P.S. Please send picture of Jeep Cherokee.
在雷將高當地咩嘅？家咩會計 computer， 要除了毛病。你檢查過 confidence 登話嘛？我拍過字樣電話，也是無效啊。你知冇？我推過 IBM 嘅資料，他們領導電話裡幫你查出唔對，就將毛病處理好啊。真好啊，打電話對啊。
Everybody loves their pets, but brushing and grooming can be difficult and costly. Introducing Miracle Pet Brush. These soft fingers will brush, groom, and massage. Watch. Miracle Pet Brush removes dust, dirt, and dead hair instantly from your pet. Miracle Pet Brush grooms long hair, short hair, even works on curly or frizzy hair. Miracle Pet Brush gets into all those difficult places that are almost impossible to groom with an ordinary brush. Your pets will love this soft, gentle massaging action. Even use Miracle Pet Brush for shampooing. It's made of water-resistant vinyl. Pet hair on your upholstery and carpet? The Miracle Pet Brush comes to your rescue. A few strokes and the unwanted hair is gone. Horse owners even use the Miracle Pet Brush for brushing and grooming. Love your pet with the Miracle Pet Brush and brush away your pet problems forever. Miracle Pet Brush, only $9.99.
To order your Miracle Pet Brush, call 1-800-531-7733 or send a check or money order for $9.99 plus $2.95 shipping and handling to the address on your screen.
Here at Rocketdyne, they fight a constant battle against gravity. Gravity wants to keep the rocket on the pad. Their engine wants to take the rocket and lift it off. Well, here's the tale of a young man who also fought a battle against gravity. You don't have to be an Einstein to figure out who won.
It's all relative.
Once upon a time, in a world called baseball, there was a young pitcher named Sterling Hitchcock.
Hitchcock's on the mound. Looks in for the sign.
Sterling was a very good pitcher. He could throw a ball 100 miles an hour. But one day, darkness fell upon the land. There came a great baseball strike, and young pitchers like Sterling were left without a game to play. So Sterling set himself a goal. He would hit the first baseball into orbit. At first, he could only bunt.
That one didn't have much on it.
The ball just couldn't wait to get down to the ground. Soon, he was hitting liners and long balls into the outfield.
Mamma mia, he put some speed on that one.
But try as he might, every ball that Sterling hit stubbornly fell to earth. Then, one day when the sky was especially clear and the air was especially still, Sterling pitched himself a hanging curveball, ran to the plate, picked up his bat, and with his eyes fixed far beyond the horizon, whacked the ball so hard that it took off at a whopping 7 miles per second.
That baby's out of here. I mean, out of here.
The little ball tried to fall out of the sky like all the others, but it was going so fast that it actually began to fall around the earth. Within minutes, it was soaring over the great cities of Europe, and in about a half hour, it was sailing over Kyoto, Japan.
Now, you don't have to be Einstein to figure out that anything going that fast isn't going to come down for a long, long time. That's why they call the speed of 7 miles per second escape velocity.
And so it is that to this very day, if you look very hard and in just the right place, you can see something flying overhead.
Look, up in the sky. It's the Hubble Space Telescope. No, it's the Mir Space Station.
Wrong. It's the ball.
Inside Space is brought to you by Benadryl Allergy Medication, the histamine blocker for strong, effective allergy relief of runny nose, itchy eyes, and sneezing.
On a day like today, I used to get sinus pressure and headaches with my allergies. My first reaction was to treat the pain. But now, I relieve the pain and the allergy symptoms that trigger it.
Only Benadryl Allergy Sinus Headache gives you maximum strength sinus pain relief, plus the allergy relief of Benadryl's histamine blocker.
It's like having my life back.
Benadryl Allergy Sinus Headache for allergies that hurt.
They left the dance floor empty. That mob just wouldn't rest. Seems the sauce on Lester's chicken just hadn't passed the test. Suddenly they hushed and turned to a stranger on the hill who with a double dose of bullseye said, "Go on. Fire up that grill." Well, they poured it on and their smiles said yes, that big bold taste tasted best. The big bold taste of bullseye tastes the best. Now try new bullseye steakhouse style. Steak never had it so bold.
You're watching Inside Space on the Sci-Fi Channel.
Today at the Eagle test drive sale, Sam Higgins is trading in his Celica for an Eagle Vision.
That's right, my boss loves his. 3.3-liter engine, 161 horses. Besides, I am up for a big promotion.
A little V6 chit-chat goes a long way with the boss.
It reminds me of a Lexus, but Vision's a lot less.
See, that's gonna look good on a resume.
And with the money I saved,
I'm gonna get the power sunroof. Smart thinking like that, it's gonna get you out of the mailroom.
Lease Vision ESI now for just $229 a month.
Julia Murray is doing something her allergies and the pollen never let her do before. She's watching one of the finest 9-year-olds ever to play the game. Thanks to Benadryl, the histamine blocker. It actually blocks the histamine that triggers allergic reactions. Take Benadryl and take back your life. And try Benadryl dye-free, the allergy medication with no artificial colors or dyes.
It's the 1950s, and the American space age is dawning. On television, a visitor from another planet is the nation's favorite hero. But out on the deserts of the Southwest, a real-life Superman is demonstrating powers and abilities far beyond those of mortal men. Dr. John Paul Stapp performs daredevil stunts in the name of science.
In May of 1945, the Armed Forces medical departments had a big consultation over what to do about a situation where more pilots were being lost in airplane crashes than in combat.
That's because the pilots couldn't withstand the overwhelming forces of gravity and aerodynamics in an out-of-control aircraft. Stapp, an Air Force flight surgeon, is ordered to participate in an intense program of rocket sled crash tests. His mission, to see just how much wind blast and deceleration stress a body can stand.
We started out facing backward, and when we learned to trust the equipment enough, we turned the seats around and did forward-facing crash tests.
Stapp endures 29 incredible feats of danger.
Head first on your back is your worst position because you're ramming all your blood up into your head.
Dr. Stapp reached his peak with a phenomenal acceleration from 0 to 632 miles per hour and then to a complete stop in 6.4 seconds.
The ones that I took were really the equivalent of being in a Jeep slamming into a concrete wall.
Stapp's data is used to design ejection seats for aircraft. Later,
The findings will provide NASA with information on human tolerance to rocket launches and capsule landings into water and on the ground. In the coming decades, many men will ride rocket sleds in the Apollo impact experiments and in the shuttle program. Still, Stapp is the first down the track. His blast-offs are not without injury, but Stapp has the right stuff.
Well, I was healed, but after all, what do the football players do?
Most dangerous is retinal hemorrhaging, causing temporary blindness. And what have been the long-term effects of so many jolts?
A lot of luncheons and dinners and talks. And interviews.
And on television.
The first thing that I usually think is, well, now, isn't there an easier way to make a living than this?
I can still remember that shot of Stapp in an early 50s Life magazine. His cheeks are, I don't know whether they are out or in, but you could see his skeleton almost like an X-ray. He is a phenomenal talent.
Today, Stapp takes pride in his contributions to saving lives while recognizing the danger.
These experiments, I doubt if they will ever be repeated, because I was lucky enough to survive all of them, including one in which a rocket blew up behind me.
After the testing came to an abrupt halt because of an accident with an unmanned sled, Stapp directed his enthusiasm to auto safety. His relentless speech-making helped implement the law requiring seatbelts in all cars. Findings from Stapp's heroism will remain with us forever.
Just have a moment here, so let me put everything in perspective for you. The nozzle is sitting on a horizontal boring mill. That's about $1.5 million. The nozzle is about $4 million, and when you made it up and come up with the complete engine, that's $40 million. But here's the most amazing part. Everything is welded on this nozzle now, so if the person who is operating the boring mill makes a mistake, makes something just a fraction of an inch off, this becomes scrap. That makes that a high-pressure job. Now, if you would like to write to the people who accompany me on my high-pressure job, we have an address for you. You can write Inside Space at USA Network's Sci-Fi channel, 1230 Avenue of the Americas, New York, New York, 10020. Or if you have a modem on your computer, we're on the internet at maxsfc at AOL.com. So many of the things we see on this show are micro-miniaturized. This is definitely not a dainty location, but something like this is an integral part of just about everything that goes up. I'm Geoff Fox. I'll see you next time, Inside Space.
Oven.
Oh my,
Raise it.
look at this, the oven.
Yeah, this is an oven.
Talk about opening and closing the doors of the oven.
Exactly, that's what I said. It's a no smoking area, or you get smoked. Yeah, you're welcome to walk into it.
But this actually would shut around us, shut around this to do the baking.
A big clamshell. It'll close up, and there's actually a space shuttle nozzle inside of here. And there's a vacuum chamber that comes down and holds all the tubes to the sides. And
this rotates?
Yes, it does.
Coming up on the Sci-Fi Channel.